Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel SummarizedAI. In today's video, we are going to talk about FastAPI in Python, one of the fastest and most efficient frameworks for building APIs. With over 13 years of experience in software development, I will guide you through understanding what an API is and how it works in real world applications. We will explore the different HTTP methods commonly used in APIs, such as GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE, and see how each of them functions in practice. Then we will cover cookies and session management, so you can see how to maintain user sessions, implement login and logout functionality, and secure your API routes for authenticated users. We will also take a look at Pydantic, which is used in FastAPI for data validation and managing request fields, ensuring your API receives the correct data types. Finally, we will see UVCon, which helps us to create fast API server efficiently. By the end of this video, you will have a complete understanding of fast API, including creating APIs, validating data using Pydantic, managing sessions, and running your UVCon server smoothly, all explained through years of development experience. Let's go ahead and start. Let's first talk about APIs in detail. Suppose you own a company and want to integrate Google Maps into your application to display store locations you have on different locations. For example, Phoenix, Chicago, Austin, New York, as well as add a new store locations or add existing ones to update the address or phone number or delete locations if that store doesn't exist anymore. To achieve this, you need a way for your app to communicate with Google Maps service. And this is where API, which is application programming interface, comes in picture. An API acts as a bridge between your application and Google Map service. You send a request to the API specifying what you want to do. For example, get or fetch a new location or multiple locations from the server, which is called as get request. But if you wish to post some data from application to Google Map to get stored in database, but whenever you require, you can fetch that information using the GET request. So for posting a data, we are going to use the POST request. Similar to that, we have delete. If we wish to delete any location or the data on the server, we can use that. And for update, we are going to use PUT method. Don't worry about these methods, get, push, post, and delete. We are going to see each and every method in detail later. Now, if we proceed further, in simple terms, okay, you as a client send a request to fetch locations or add new location or edit or delete. The Google Map Service API receives the request as a server, process it, and interact with its database to gather the information and return the same as in response. This interactions allows your application to use Google's map service without handling all the complex map data internally, making it faster and easier to manage locations efficiently. You made a call to the server gave you the response. Okay, so here your web application is nothing but a client because client is asking for something and server is returning that detail to the client. And this architecture, we call it as client server architecture. Great. Now let's proceed further. Now, if we see this particular example here, I have created a sample URLs. For example, if I wish to call any API, I will get the domain. I will get the domain of Google Maps, okay? And I will append my URI like API location slash location slash one to get location of the location to get one store. Okay. Now, If we see these URLs here, we are saying slash location, and it is a get method. Get means you get something from server. Okay. So we are saying get location and you hit that URL and it will return the locations, all the locations. But if you wish to have a particular location, there you are going to pass the location ID, or you can pass the latitude and longitude. Depending on the implementation, you can pass the data so that server can understand if latitude and longitude equal to this, return this location. Or if location ID is this, you have assigned a location ID or the store ID. Based on the store ID, it will return that particular location. Now, if you are posting, if you wish to create a new store, you will be using a post method. Okay. And for that, you are going to call slash location. Okay. So you're saying call this particular API slash location, send some data as a body. I will show you what body is. Body contains all the information which we wish to save in the server or the database. Okay, like ID. Okay, store ID, store name, location, phone number, everything we can send as part of the body. Body can be in the form of JSON or XML that we will see later. Now, suppose if you wish to edit existing location, you can pass the location ID in the URL, and in the body, you pass the updated data. So what it will do, it will replace or update the existing data with the latest what you're sending in the body. So this is how this would work. Now in case of delete, we just have to pass the ID. Okay. And depending on the ID, it will delete that particular location. And this is how these API works. Okay. This is just an example. Now, as part of our video, I have created the APIs, or we are going to talk about the APIs related to the user. Okay. So for example, if I'm hitting slash users, I have a domain and I'm saying slash users, it should give me the list of users. Okay. And if I'm saying slash user one, I'm passing the user ID. Sorry, it should be slash user slash one. If I'm passing the user ID, it should give me the data of that particular user. Now, if I'm saying slash user and calling a method post and passing a body where I'm passing ID, username, password, age, city, it will help us to add the data. And once the data gets added, it will return this status code 201. Okay, this status code or the response code is very important. This tells us whatever data we have sent or requested to the server, does it get completed or it is facing some issues. If it says 200, which means it successfully returned the response. And if it says 404, which means the particular API not found. Okay, if it says some other error, 500 internal server error, which means something wrong in the API. And if it says 201, means whatever data you have sent, that particular data got saved into the server. Means you have created a new entry. So that's why it will return 201, which is nothing but created. Similar to that, if you're deleting something, you are saying delete the user having ID 1. It will delete the user and it will return this 2 not 4, which says content not found, because that particular content got deleted and in the response you have said 204 content not found. And this is how the API works. Now, the very important thing here, okay, which is UV-Gon. Now, to build a web application in Python with FastAPI, you need something called a server to run your app and handle requests from users. This is where UVCon comes in picture. So UVCon is a lightweight, high performance AGI server, ASGI server. ASGI stands for Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface, which is a common standard for Python web apps that supports async programming. Where why async? Async is something where we can send n number of requests and server should be able to process all those requests, correct? Or else if it is going in a queue, then the processing time will take a lot of time. Okay, so this particular UVCon will process the request asynchronously. Now, in simple terms, Fast API lets you write web applications that can handle many requests at the same time efficiently. But Fast API itself is just a framework. It doesn't run your app. So if I talk about the Fast API is nothing but a Python code you have written. Okay, functions kind of things or the variables. Now you have to deploy this somewhere on some server. Okay, as soon as you deploy on this particular server, UVCon, anyone can use this particular code with the help of some URL. Okay, in the form of services. But UVCon is the engine that actually runs your Fast API app, listens to the incoming request and send back the response. So if you are sending a request, it will go to the UVCon. UVCon will send the request or will call the code, Fast API code or that particular API. It will process it and then UVCon will return the response. Now, this was all about UVCon. Now, why we should be using UVCon? First thing we have already discussed, which is nothing but async support by the UVCon. And the second one is high performance. And second one is developer easy and the production ready. So whatever you are developing with the help of UVCon, you can take that thing to the production. Okay, great. Now let's go back to our IntelliJ, or I would say Visual Studio, and start the implementation. Okay, let's see how we can implement the services. So let me go ahead and create a file which says fast API underscore json.py. Okay, now before we start the development, okay, we require two packages: pip install fast API. Okay, this particular command you have to run your command prompt. Okay, as soon as you run, this will install fast API module in our local. Now you see the 1.3.1 got installed in my local. Now apart from this one, you require one more: pip install Pydantic or UVCon. Let's first go with the UVCon. Okay, so we require UVCon. Let's copy this and paste it here. It will install UVCon also. Now, once the UVCon gets installed with the required version or whatever version it is going to install, in my case, it is 0.4.6. Now, after having both the things, what we can do, we can go ahead and start with the implementation. Great. Now, to use FastAPI, we will be importing a FastAPI from FastAPI module. So let's say FastAPI from FastAPI import FastAPI. Okay. Now, after having this FastAPI, you will create a object of FastAPI. So you can say app equal to FastAPI. We created an object. Okay. Now, with the help of this particular object, what we are going to do, we are going to create a service. Okay. And before going with the service, the very first service what we are going to create is to get the user. Okay, so we are going to say get users. Okay, now to get the users, you require the array, okay, which will be having multiple users. Okay, so array of JSON object. Okay, so let's first declare user array which will hold all the users, and here let's initialize one user. Okay, let's give the data of one user. So ID, nothing one, then comma, name as Jack. Now after this, give age 23 and then say city, which is nothing but Austin. Okay. Now the last is password. So all this detail we have given here. ABC 123 is my password. Great. Now, once we have this, and what we are going to say, I'm going to say, for example, here what we discussed, if I hit slash users, it should give me the list of all available users in the database. Great. Now, we don't have database connectivity, but we are creating a list here, which we are going to return. And this is the list which we are going to make a change. We will add more users. We will update or delete. Okay. Now, if I can go here, I can say at the rate app dot get. So I mentioned like it will be a get method and user is the URL. So here we said at the rate app slash users. Okay. Now let's define a normal function what we have in Python, get underscore users. Okay. It's a custom name. We can have anything. Okay. Now get users. And here what I'm doing directly, I'm saying return users. So whatever we are having here, it should be users because we are going to maintain multiple users. Okay. Whatever we are having here, we are going to return as is. Okay. Now let me go ahead and start UVCon server. And to start this particular UVCon server, the command which we are going to have is UVCon, okay, which we are going to run. This is our Python file name, FastAPI underscore JSON. And then this is our app name, what we have given here. Okay. Now, if I give enter, it will start that particular server. If you see the server got started, this is the URL. If I go and copy, sorry, it got closed. If I get copy and let me open this. Yep, you see, it is saying not found, but our server is up because we got some response from here. But we have created one request as users, one API is users. Now, if I hit the slash users, it will return us the user. Okay. Now it returned us the users because here we created the API, which will get called as slash users, and it returned the user. Now, for example, just a quick, I would say a catch here. Suppose if I'm hitting this particular URL here, and it is saying not found. Okay, how to handle this thing? We are saying slash here, okay, and in the message we can say message. This is first fast API app. Okay, this is the one, and get message, for example. Now, if I will go back, switch off my server and start it again, let's refresh this page. You see, on this particular hit, we got this one. Okay. And when I say this users, I got this. Okay. Now let's do one thing. We are able to get the users. Okay. Now, after getting the users, let's do one thing. Let's try to create one user. Okay. And as discussed earlier, to create a user, we require a post method. Okay. We require a post method, and in the body we are going to send the data of the user. Okay, let's see. So here we're gonna say at the rate app dot post. Okay, and here we are going to say slash user. Okay, now apart from this, here we are going to say create user. Okay, now after this we will require a request and response. I will tell you why we require request and response. Okay, so in simple term, I can say if I'm sending something from the browser, it will come as part of request object, okay, to the server. And whatever we are returning from server to the client, it will be going in the response object. Okay, we will be attaching it. And if once it will get reached to the end user, they can access anything with the help of response object. Okay, so let's see like how it works. So now let's say here request comma response response. Okay, we got this. Now here say enter. Now after this, let's give one return here, just a dummy return. Now after this, what I'm going to say, I'm going to say this one is async. Okay, I wish to create this thing, and having a sync will help us to save the data asynchronously. Now say data equal to, or I would say not data, I would say user. Okay, I'm getting a user detail. So I'm saying user detail. How would I get the user detail? We get the await, and here we will say request dot JSON. Okay, so whatever JSON we have created here, this particular, the same JSON we will be passing from there in a body. Okay, and everything will be get here as is. And if I say users dot append and say user, okay, it will get append. And here I can say simply r receive received underscore data, and here I can say users. Okay, now let's see post method slash user, and we are looking for some data in the JSON format. So let's restart our server first, and once it gets start, let's go back to the browser. In the browser, you can see we are able to access the user. Now, because at current point of time we are using browser will help us only to fetch the data. Okay, if you want to post data, update data, or delete data, we cannot use browser for testing. We cannot use. We can just fetch the data using the browser. So for that, we are going to use Postman. Okay, and using Postman, we will make all the calls. So Postman allows us to make all requested calls. So we can make post call, we can make put call, we can make delete call, and I will show you like there are other calls also. We can make those also. Okay, so let me delete everything so that we can start from the beginning. Let me click and say close all tabs. Okay, so for example, here we were saying slash users. Okay, if you see we have these methods get, post, put, patch, delete, hidden options. These are different method we can use for API. But at current point of time, we are saying get all the users from server. Okay, so if you click on this particular send, it will send the request to UVCon. UVCon will call our code and it will return this. So we got the users. Now, if I copy this URL, paste it here, and you remember in Visual Studio, we have created slash user. So copy this and paste it here, slash user, okay, API, and we know our method is post because we are sending something to the server. And as I mentioned, we are going to send the user data from body. So body is nothing but it allows us to send the data from client to server. So we can send raw data also in the form of text. We can send JSON, HTML, XML, and JavaScript. Okay, but we are going to use JSON, and 90% or 99% of the cases we use JSON as a data to send to the server in the JSON format. Okay, now we are already having this particular JSON here. So I will copy this JSON, copy from here to here, not the JSON array, just the JSON because we are sending a data of only one user. If you are going to send the data of two users, then it should be array and the object is separated by comma. So now here we can say 1, 2, and I can say Mike, and the age is 35, and Chicago, and the password is DEF. Okay. Now, if I try to make this particular request, this request will go to the UVCon. Okay. Here our user will get reach in the form of JSON. If I print, the JSON will be coming. So let me print that JSON for you guys once. So user, okay, great. Now let me click on this, or let me first start the server. Yep, server got started. Now if I send the request, you see received data, and received the users array as is. And it added this particular information there. And if we go back here, you see we got the user, and this particular user, what we got on this line, we have added in the users object. So we already had one object of Jack. Now one more object got added, what we have passed from there. Now it is two objects, and both the objects we have returned to the postman. So this is how the if you wish to add something or post something to the server, we can do that. Okay, great. Now after this, if you have seen, we have one more API where we are saying, give me the detail of only one user, slash user slash one. Okay, I don't want all the users. I want only one user. So let's see how this one user thing works. So for that, again, I require get user. So you see this here, the get user. I will be creating get user. So say app dot get again, because we are going to get the detail, and here we are going to say user. Okay, here it is user. Here it is also user, but the method was post. But here the method is get. Now we are going to say def, and again think and def, and then get underscore user. Okay. Now once we say this get user, we can pass the user ID here. So we can say slash user ID as a variable. This is what how we are going to get. So we are going to say slash user slash one. And as soon as we say slash user slash one, it will return us the user. Okay, great. Now what we are going to do here is we are going to loop. Okay, so for example, what would be the logic? Like I'm asking you guys, for example, sorry, it should be a sync. It should be async def. Okay, and let me say return. That is fine. So what would be the logic? The logic would be we are already having all the users. So we have to loop through the users. Okay. So for index, I would say comma user. Okay. User in for user in enumerate users. Okay. Now we are looping through each and every user. Okay. We are getting the index. And now here I'm gonna say if user ID equals to user underscore ID. If the ID got matched, okay, if the ID got matched, what we gonna do here is we gonna return that particular user. So it should be user underscore ID, and we need this in the form of int. Okay. Now once we got this ID, we will return that. What it is saying async get user. Okay, this thing here. Great. Now we require a response code also here. So we are going to say this response. Okay, now this is fine. Now what we gonna do? Once this ID got matched, we gonna say users return index. Return the user which is at that particular index. Okay, and before returning the user, we wish to update the response code. So we are going to say response dot status code equals to status. Okay, so we have to import the status also. So comma status, and below we can say status dot 200. Okay, great. Now we will see those things. Now once we have this, what we can do here is we can close the server and start again. Server got started. Let's go back and add this user again. Now we have two users. Okay, so at every time when you are going to give a build, because this user is a file level variable, it will always get initialized. Okay, so that's where it got initialized with one user. Now we have added one. Now here we can simply say get user with ID 1. Okay, let's see what happens. See, we got the user Jack. Okay, and if you see here, we got status 200. Okay, now if I say ID 12, it will give me this data. Okay, now for example, if I added one more user here with ID 21 and say Robo, okay, and then city is you can say New York, okay, and the password is ASD. Add this. Now we have three users. Now the ID of this user is 21. So let's go ahead and update the ID here as 21. So there is one more point I want to call out. Here we have passed this slash 21. Slash 21 is nothing but we call it as URL parameter because we are passing a variable with the help of URL. So this is URL parameter. Okay. And we have one more concept. Okay. Let me tell you that concept also. So suppose if I'm passing something, you can say this is just for testing name str. Okay. If I wish to get this particular name here, okay, and let me print this name, print format name, and here I can say name. Okay. If I pass to this name, okay, there is one more way. What I'm gonna do here is I'm going to say name equal to test. If I make a call, let me refresh the server. Okay, so I'm starting a server again and again. In place of that, I can use reload. Okay, so whenever I'm going to make a change, it will refresh the server and the code. Okay, so we need not to start the server again and again. What it is saying, hyphen, hyphen, okay, spelling mistake, reload. Okay, great. Now, if I go back here, enter, you will see I got name test here. Okay. Now if I wish to pass one more parameter, okay, but before passing one more parameter, after question mark, whatever it is coming, key equal to value, this is nothing but query parameter because this is nothing but query symbol and whatever we are passing in the key value pair, it's a query parameter. And if you want to pass one more, okay, as a country, okay, equal to USA, I can say country equal to USA separated by n%. And if I wish to have one more, I can say again n%. And here you can pass code. Okay. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. If I wish to access these things, I can go ahead simply and say here, first of all, country. Okay. And this is nothing but coming as a string. And then again, I'm saying code, which is also coming as a string. Okay. And everything I can get it here. Country, and then here country, and then here it will be code. Okay, I refreshed, the server got refreshed as soon as I save anything. I will go back, and if I try to say this, it will say null because the user doesn't exist. I will add the user, and after adding the user, what ID I had 21. Now if I say send, it got sent. And if you go to the server, you see name test country USA code 1235. So here we are passing data two ways. Very first is the with the help of URL parameter, and second by query parameter. Okay, great. Now if I'm saying this here 21, I can say here like one more thing. For example, ABCD. Okay, if I wish to have this ABCD, okay, then no problem. I can go here and here I can say just a variable name. Anything is fine. um, Custom where, for example. Okay, and this particular custom where I have to write here custom where colon str comma. Now if I print this custom where, it will give me the value of that particular variable. Okay, custom where str. Okay, great. Copy, paste, custom where, and let me give the name also here, something like that. Now if I go here, add something, go, I got the response. You see custom where is nothing but ABCD. This is what we passed. So we are passing multiple URL parameter. Okay. and we are passing multiple query parameters also. This is the easiest way how we can pass things. Now, this was just for testing. Let me uh, revert the code. I hope you got the point of the URL parameter and the query parameter. Great. Now let's go and revert the changes. Now here we are. Now we are able to get all the users. We are able to post the user, which means we are able to create the user, and we are able to get that particular user also. Okay. Now there is one more thing I wish to call out. Here I did not add the response code. So we have created a user, okay, in the backend, but we have to return the status. So we can say status code status dot, you see this 201. Let's save it. Now, because I have written 201 created, so if this particular code gets successfully run, and if our user will get add here, it got added to 21 robo, you can see we are getting the response code as 201 created. Okay. Now, if I wish to update this status code to something else, I can say like 204 node content just for testing. Okay, you see it got updated. But every stated code has some meaning. So when something gets created, we return this particular status code so that the developer who is on the client side, they can check this particular status code, and this status code means that particular data got saved or created in the backend. Great. Now, after posting the user, what we're gonna do here is we are going to update the user. Okay. So if I go ahead and say for the update, what we discussed, we are going to use put method. Put update the user of ID 1 or whatever ID you're passing and send the data in the body. That particular data will get updated. Let's see that how we can do. So the same thing, we require app here dot put is a method. Okay. Again, slash user. Okay. This is everything going to be same. Only it will be put here and then slash user ID, user underscore ID. Great. Now here we can say async function get, sorry, update user. Okay. Now here again we are going user underscore ID colon int. Okay. Great. Now I will write the return statement here. That's fine. Now we do understand we are going to update the user. Okay. And because we are going to send the user as part of the body, you do know we are going to get the user by user equals to await request dot JSON. Correct? Request. Okay, I have to pass the request here to get this. So request colon request and then response also required response, and here it's a colon. Okay, so I'm going to say request dot JSON. So we got the user in the form of JSON. Great. Now, once we got the user, okay, after getting the user, what we were doing here, we were looping through the user. So here also we are going to do the same, and we have to find out the user whose ID gets matched. That also I have copied. Okay. Once we got the user ID, what we're gonna do here is we are going to get that user with the help of index. Okay. So user, we got that particular user and say dot update and pass that particular user, what we are getting as part of the body. Okay. Now, once the user got updated, you can say response dot status underscore code equal to status dot done. It got updated. Okay. Okay. And in the return, we are going to say simple, same thing. We can copy received data and the users. That's it. If you wish to return the specific user, you can do that. And you can return the list of users also. But here we are going to say like specific user, return the specific user what we have updated. Now our hyphen reload is there, so we need not to stop and start the server again. Server got refreshed. We can go here. Now if I got one user. Now I'm going to add one more. It got added. Okay. Now here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more API. Okay. So these all things I don't require. That's fine. But if I say 21, I got the robo. Now I'm going to create one more API here. Let me copy this one. We are saying update, and for update, we are going to use put method, put, and this is what we have written our code base put. Okay. And we have to send the user ID after slash user. So slash user, we are sending the user ID. Now we are expecting the data which needs to get update for that user. So we will go to the body, okay, and from here get this data, okay, raw and JSON. Okay, we are expected in JSON. Now for this particular ID, we are saying you can say Rob Tyson, for example. Okay, and in place of 35, you can say 24. And for New York, you can say Delhi. Okay, for example. Now password is fine, or we can update it to QWERTY. Okay, let's send this request and see what happens. We sent the request and we got internal server error because something went wrong somewhere. Okay, it says, oh, users. It should be users. We are trying to find out the particular users from users for that index. Okay, so let me go back. Let's add one more time. Let's go to the put and click. See the data what we sent here. Oh, I don't see the updated one here. Give me a minute. Users index dot update. Oh, it's the same. It took the local variable here. You see user. So we can say um, updated user. Okay, and pass the updated user here. Oh my God. Okay. Post and then put. You see Robert Tyson and 24. If I go and get the user detail, you see I'm getting the updated user. Great. So our update is working fine. Now let's go towards deleting the user. And we are going to we are going to use delete method. Delete method we are going to use, and we are going to say delete user having ID this. Okay, and after deleting, just return the response code of 204. Let's see that how we can do that. Okay, so I know I required all this thing. I'm not going to write. I'm going to copy, and I say at the rate app in place of put, I need delete slash user ID I need because I have to identify the user. Now async define here, I'm going to say delete because I'm going to delete the user, and user ID we are getting request response I need. Great. Now after this, we gonna get the for loop. Okay. So the same thing here, what we did, let me copy everything. Let's copy things here. I copied. We are going to have a for loop. After having a for loop, we will go through one by one user. And then as soon as we got that particular user match, we can say delete users and then pass the index. Okay, this user will get delete. Now, in the return, I'm not going to return anything, but before returning, I'm going to say response dot status code equal to status dot 204. Okay, and then you can say return from here. Now, suppose if the user ID did not get match, okay, if the user ID did not get match, or the ID which we have passed did not found, then we can raise the exception there. Raise HTTP exception. Okay. And for HTTP exception, we are going to import that also, comma, HTTP exception. And here again, we are going to say HTTP exception. And here we are going to pass status code equal to 404, comma, detail user not found. Okay, great. Now let's go back to our Postman. Add the user. I added the user. Now if I get the user, I will be getting two users. Great. Now if I go here, let's copy this URL and open a new tab. And here you can say delete and pass the ID. So we have two users, one having one ID and another one is 21. So let's first try to delete 21. We deleted, you say 200, 204, no content, which means it got deleted. Now if I again try to delete, it says 404 not found because that particular user got already deleted. If you wish to see that, you can click here. You are getting only one user detail. Now again, the user which got left is having an ID of 1. Okay, which is having an ID of 1. Let's try to delete this user also. So I can say 1, user deleted successfully, 204 no content. Now again, if I try to delete, it will give me the user not found because that user got already deleted. Now again, if I say this, it is returning us the empty array because there is no user exists. Great. Now let's move further. Okay. Now in most of the applications, you would have seen the login and logout functionality. Okay, so login functionality, and after login, you can access the profile. And once you log out, you cannot access the profile because you are logged out. So let's see how those things work, how session management, session and cookie comes in picture. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create three different services. The very first service is going to be a login, which is a post service. In that service, we will be sending user ID and password. Okay, that particular user ID password, if it get match, then we will create a session. We will create a cookie. Okay, after that, we will try to access the profile. So we will create a profile API get, and if our session exists, it will give us the data. If not, then it will simply say not authorized. And if we if we will be creating a logout also. So at the time of logout, we will delete the session, we will delete the cookie. And if we try to access the profile, it will say not authorized. Let's create that and see. No worries, I will explain each and everything how it is, how it works. So app.get, say login. Now create a function here, async def login, and here again we require a response. Okay, and we require request also. Okay, so we got the request also, we got the response also, but apart from request and response, we also required the user underscore ID, or yeah, user underscore ID as str and password as str. So these are the things which we require. Say colon. I will get this to the next line for not to get confused. Okay. Now, once this is ready, let me say return so that it won't give the error. Okay. Now, as soon as we pass the user ID and password. So user ID is nothing. User ID we are saying to the ID, and this password we will match both the things. So let's do that. So here we are saying for user in users. Okay. And yep, user in users. Now after this, if I say if user ID, correct, equal to user underscore ID and user password equal to password. Okay. Now there's a point which needs to be catch. Here, user ID, whatever we are having, this is an int. Okay, this is an int. You see here, it's a number type. But when you pass anything with the help of URL parameter or the query parameter, that particular value comes as a string. So we have to convert this string to int. Okay. Now it's a int to int comparison. Now, once we got this, we are going to create session. Okay. And before creating a session, we require a session ID. Okay. So how we are going to create a session ID? We can say like app and user, we can say here user underscore ID. Okay. And then underscore session. This will be my session ID. Okay. Now after having a session ID, we will be managing all of our sessions in the application. So we are going to say sessions. Okay. I will explain you what this sessions is all about later. So we got the session. So we have to keep this session ID into that sessions object. So session ID we keep into this. Now we have to provide the value. So we are going to say username, then colon user ID. So I got the session ID. Okay. And that session ID I have created with the help of user ID underscore session. Why? Because if suppose 10 users are login, okay, if I deployed my application, 10 users are login, then I'm creating a session on the server side so that if any user request is coming, I will be able to see the user ID here, the session ID, and with the session ID, I will be able to get the user ID. And then I can say, yes, this user logged in. This is an authorized user. Okay. Here we have created the local variable, but in actual, we place all these things in a database, and there are multiple ways to do the session management. That's a different topic. I will try to create a video on that, but this is the simplest way how we can create the session in our current application. We can save these values in the databases also. Okay, great. Now we have created the session ID and kept into the sessions. Sessions is nothing but a variable, or you can say like a database we kept it into. Okay, or you can also keep it into like SQL. Okay, now once we have this, we can say response dot set cookie. Now we are creating a cookie here. I will tell you what cookie is and how it works. Now every cookie is used to have its key. So we are saying session underscore ID. Okay. Now here I'm going to say value. What is the value of this key? So value is nothing but session ID. So this particular session ID is going to be a value which is one underscore session, one two underscore session and all. Now we are going to say here HTTP only cookie. Okay, this is the HTTP only cookie because we are currently working on HTTP, not the HTTPS. Now here we can say max underscore age equal to 3600. Okay, so our cookie got created. Now we can return and say here message login successful. Okay, login successful. Okay, now suppose if the user ID and password did not get matched, in that case, what we gonna do here is we gonna say not here, sorry, it should be for loop, it should be somewhere here. Okay, it says raise HTTP exception. What we did earlier, the same thing here. Status code 401. Okay, 401 we use for not authorized. Okay, so detail invalid credentials. Okay, invalid credentials. This I have to keep in the double quote. Okay, great. Now we got this thing here. Now let me go here. What it is saying? It got closed. So we got comma here. Okay, great. Now, for example, if I go back here, okay, and I say post this, and my ID is 1 and the password is ABC123. So I will copy this URL. Okay, I will go here, and in place of this, I have to say slash login. Okay, and it is expecting user underscore ID and password as a query parameter, not the URL parameter. So we can say login question mark user underscore ID equals to 1 and password equal to the 123. Okay, now it should be post. Now if we try to send, you said method not allowed. Okay, this is saying method not allowed, point to be noted because we kept something else there apart from post. See, this is get. Okay, method not allowed. You get the error. Now, if you send this request, the request gets sent and we are facing some issues. There is some error coming. What it says user, okay, this should be in the double quote, the password. It's a key. Okay, now if I go back here, send the request, I get login successfully. Okay, now login successfully, but you will see while, once it will loop, it will check the condition, but will get match. It will create the session and it is creating a cookie. Cookie is nothing, but if I go into my Postman, it created a cookie here. Session underscore ID, one underscore session. Okay. Now, if you see this particular cookie is not here, we don't see this cookie. But what happens once you have that cookie in your browser, and if you are making that particular call to that domain, okay, or to that URL, I've said to the domain, not the URL domain, okay, this cookie will start appearing here because whatever cookie you are going to have, that particular cookie will go with the request. Okay, so if I say send, see, this is the one. It went with the request. Okay, now if you see here, I had this ID 1 and 3. Now suppose if I create a user here, one more, 21. Okay, now you see I have a session ID of 1, but if I say 1, 2, and the password is ASD123. So if I say here ASD123, you will see my session ID should get update. Okay, but it did not do that. Why? Because it is saying invalid credential. It says user underscore ID equal to 12 and password ASD123. Oh, it is 21, not 12. 21. 21. Okay. See, it got login successfully. Now, if you go to the cookie, our cookie got updated to that user. Okay. Which means try to understand one thing. If multiple users are login, okay, then our cookie will be there. Okay. Our sessions will have all the cookies. So for example, if I print this particular sessions object, it will have two cookies. Okay. Now, if Robo will make the request or if this particular user, whatever we are having, that particular user is going to make the request, either of them, both will get authorized. Okay, but if I am going to make a request with any other user like this one, it will not get authorized. Okay, this is invalid credential. Okay, now authorized and unauthorized, we will be checking. Let's check. Let's check that. So I'm going to create a profile API where I will try to access the user data. If this is the authorized user, then we will allow. If not, then we will be saying not authenticated or the invalid user. So let's do that. So at the rate app dot get, and here you can say slash profile. Okay. Now you can say async def profile, and here I need a request. Okay. Now I have a request here. I can say here async def profile, and in the profile I'm just expecting the. Okay, this is already there. We have written. Okay, great. Now we have defined the function. Now we are going to say session ID. First, we have to get the session ID. So as soon as I make this call, and what I told you, once the cookie got created, that cookie will travel with every request, whatever request you are going to make. If you are going to make this creation user request, deletion user request, it will go with every request. So here I'm going to say session underscore ID equals to, I'm going to say optional. So for optional, I have to import it from typing. So I'm going to say from typing import optional. Okay. So we have imported the optional from the typing. So let's go down. And here we are going to say optional string. Okay. Not this way. It should be this way. Optional string. Okay. Now equal to request dot cookies. Okay. It will get all the cookies. You can create multiple cookie. Okay. And then you can say get. Now you can get the cookies. So you are seeing only one cookie here at current point of time when you logged in. Okay, this one, but you can have multiple here. So you can pass the ID of this particular cookie to access that cookie. So it is session underscore ID. So this is same. I'm going to say session underscore ID. And once I get this, okay, what it will return? It will return us 21 underscore session. Okay, for that particular user. Now 21 underscore session is already there in the sessions object also. So we will compare it with the session so that we will get to know, yes, this particular user is logged in user. So we are going to say session ID if and session ID in sessions. Okay. If this is found, then we can say return message and you can say F welcome and then here you can say sessions. You have to get the value of that session ID. Then username. Okay. And this is what we kept here. Username, it will return as the value 21 underscore session. Okay. That it will return. Or if it did not get found, you can directly say else, raise HTTP exception. Okay. And here you can say status code equal to 401, comma, details equal to not authenticated. Okay. This is done. Now, if I go back here and I try to get this thing, I create one more user, then get check. I have two users now. Now, after this, when we have a user, let's log in. Okay, we logged in, we got the session ID here. Now, if I copy this URL and create one more here and say in place of login, profile, and profile is nothing but a get. See, it is saying internal server error, something went wrong. Let's see what is the issue here. It is saying unexpected argument details. Did you mean detail? Where it is saying line number 86. Oh yeah, it should be detail. Okay, so let me go again and create the user. I have to log in, logged in, now send. It is saying not authenticated. Okay, the user is not authenticated. Let me try one more time. It is again saying the same thing. Why it is saying? Let's see that. So we got the session ID from the session. So request.cookies.get session ID. What I'm gonna do here is I'm going to print session ID. Okay, let's see what session ID comes. So first login. So first create a user ESD123. Then you try to log in. You got logged in, and then try to access this. Okay, and here you are going to say 21 underscore session. So this is there. So 21 underscore session, and this is session ID and session ID in sessions. Okay, great. So let's print what we have inside sessions so that we can check if our sessions is having this particular ID is getting saved or not. So let's post it and try to log in and then send a request. So you see in our sessions is empty, which means our sessions is not getting updated here. So if I say session, session ID equal to user ID colon username underscore user ID. Okay, so this is correct. It should be working fine. So let me print this sessions here. Let's see like if it is getting stored or not. So if I go here, post, I have two users, which is correct, 21 and ASD123. Try to log in. 21 is, oh my God, this is the issue. We have W here. So now it will log in. It got logged in. After login, if I try to access the profile, I got welcome to one. So 21 is nothing but our ID. Okay, this is what we are getting from here. This thing, session ID, username, which we set at the time of login. This one. So inside sessions, we have session ID as a key, and inside session ID, we have username, which is having a value of user ID, which is nothing but 21. This is what we try to fetch here. Now we got the profile. Now how many times I'm going to click, I'm going to get the details. But suppose if I have a logout functionality, let's first build this logout functionality and then after that try to understand non-authenticated users. Let's say app dot post then slash logout. Okay, and here we can say async def logout, and inside it we can say response colon response, and after that request. Okay, and then once we have this, what we can say here is if the same thing session ID session underscore ID, but we have to get the session ID here. So what we can do here is we can copy paste this exact thing. Okay. So what we are doing here is first get the session ID from the cookie. Okay. And after getting that particular session ID, we will compare that session ID in the sessions. If that session ID got found, what we're gonna do, the same thing we did with the users sessions, and with the help of index, we will delete it. But here we don't require index as session ID is our key. So now this particular session will get delete. And in the response, we can say response dot delete cookie also. So it will delete that particular cookie. And you know what the key of the cookie? The key of the cookie was session ID. We have keep it here. So let's copy that and keep it here. So it will delete the cookie on logout. And in the return, we can say simply message logout successful. Okay, great. Now, if you're not able to log out or there is some problem, then again we can say the same thing, HTTP exception. Then we can say status code equal to 401, and then we can say not authenticated. Not authenticated. Okay. Now let's go ahead, create a user, log in this user. Okay. Try to get the profile. I'm able to get the profile. Now let's copy this URL from here and paste it here and say logout. What is the function we have created for the logout? It's a post. Okay. So the post. Now you see it says logout successful. Okay. After it says logout successful, and if you try to access the profile, it will say not authenticated. Okay. Now, if you again log in and try to access the profile multiple times, it will say welcome. Okay. Now, if suppose you will be seeing here, I have the cookie here. Okay. Now, as soon as I go here, I clicked on logout, my cookie got deleted. Now to see that, if I click on send here, see there is no cookie because that particular cookie got deleted by logout. And this is where and how we manage the sessions, okay, with the help of API. Okay. Now, whenever you're sending a request to get the user detail or the address or any other detail or the location, this is how we maintain the session and get the details. Okay, great. Now, we have seen how we can create different APIs with the help of JSON. Okay, and there are some disadvantages of using JSON directly because you have to do a lot of manipulation in terms of JSON. Okay, if you wish to see like age is greater than 0 or equal to 0, it should be. So then it requires a lot of validation, and to write each and every validation multiple times, it's an issue. Okay, so in place of that, we can use some module which is provided by Python, which allow us to manage this complete user object and the field. Okay, and apply the validation. So um, it's the right time. Now it's the right time to discuss Pydantic. When building modern Python applications, especially fast API apps, you often need to accept, validate, and process the data. Correct? For example, user input from a form, JSON from an API request, or configuration settings require a user data validation. So validate data like age should not be less than 0, or to have a required password requires a validation, and doing this with JSON will be difficult every time and cumbersome. That's where we use Pydantic. In short, what Pydantic does, it helps us to define structured data models using Python classes, also helps us to validate incoming data automatically, like types, formats, required fields, and at last, Pydantic parse and convert data into the right Python types, like input. Okay, so now let's see how this Pydantic works. What we are going to do, whatever APIs we have created with the help of JSON, we will convert all these API to Pydantic. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Now, first of all, going with the Pydantic, we will require a Pydantic. Okay, so for that, you can say in your command prompt pimp install Pydantic. Okay, so this will allow you to install that particular module in your local. As soon as you have this particular module in your local, you can say from Pydantic. Okay, from mm, 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 from Pydantic. Okay, from Pydantic. Why it is giving me an error? Let's see. From Pydantic, import base model. Base model is nothing but a class provided by Pydantic. And we are going to have a field also for the field validation. Okay. So now let me, yep. So now we have Pydantic in place. Now we are going to create a class. Okay. And that particular class will take care of everything. Okay. So we are going to create a class of user. Okay. So let's create a class of user, and it will be inheriting base model. Okay, it will be inheriting base model. Let's see what it's saying. It is saying quick fix, add fast API extra paths. No, 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 not required. Suppress warning. Okay, great. Now we are going to say class user base model. We are inheriting base model. Now here we can say my ID is a type of int. Correct. Here our ID is type of int. Name is string, which is str. So we can say name str. And then again, if I go down, I can say age is again int, and then we have city as str, and the password is again str. Okay, so here we have created a user class. Okay, now because we are going with the Pydantic, we cannot have this particular thing here. Okay, so we have to initialize a list of user. Okay, in place of having a JSON array, so we can say users list of users. Okay, so we require list of user equals to array. Okay, now this will be a list. So we are going to say ID equal to 1, name equals to Jack, comma, age equal to 23, comma, city equals to Austin, okay, then comma, password equal to ABC123. Okay, so whatever we had, we kept the same thing here. Now we don't require this particular object anymore. Okay, now once we have this particular thing with us, okay, we can go ahead and update our code. So here, wherever I'm using JSON here, so see, I'm using JSON here as a request.json. So for that, what I can do here is I can directly say in place of request, I can say user, okay, and then user. So user is a user type, and that's what we are expecting there. Okay. Now, once we have the user, okay, I can directly say here user. This particular line itself is not required. That's it. We are done. Okay. So let me close this particular server for time being and let me open the Pydantic. So Pydantic, enter. Okay, now we have Pydantic server up. It is saying module this from Pydantic, import this is ignored, no module Pydantic. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me quickly say pip install Pydantic. Okay, and let's see like what happens. Oh, it is installing the Pydantic. Okay, I don't have Pydantic. This means let it install the Pydantic. So till then, oh, it installed quickly. Very good. So let's go ahead and start the UVCon server again. Yes, the server started, cannot import base model. So it is something from Pydantic. Oh, it's Pydantic, man. Sorry, my fault. No, it is correct. Now our server is up, but it is giving me an error. It is saying it should be a list. So it is saying users. So I have to import the list also from here. Okay, done. Now it is fine. The server is up. Okay. Now if I go back and if I try to access my get, you will see I'm able to access the get request using Pydantic. Now let's go ahead and try to have add the data using Pydantic. But add is also done. So add is done. In here we did that and add is we also made a change here user. So let's add the add also here. So in the add, let's make a call. Yeah, I'm able to add. And if I get, I have having this. Great. Now after add and all, let's go ahead and update the update. Okay. In the update, we are getting the request just JSON from here, the user. Okay. So let's go ahead and update. So we are getting this updated user. So in place of request, I'm going to say updated user and this user here. Okay. Copy this updated user. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this. And in place of here, I have the updated user, which is correct. Now, if I go ahead here, run it, I have 21 robo. Okay, and if I have 21 and I'm saying say robo Tyson, I'm getting an error. What error it is saying? It is saying user.idea. So here I have to update. Now it is not an array, it is the class. So I should be saying class.attribute. Now if I go back, add, and then update. Okay, again we have some error here. So it is saying user object has no attribute, update. Oh yeah, so this particular update will not work. We have to update this particular code little bit. So we are going to say user ID equal to this, and then updated update data equals to, you can say updated underscore user dot and then dictionary DICT. Okay, and then inside it you can pass exclude unset to true. Okay. Now, once you have updated data, what you can do here is you can write a for loop. So for key, comma, value. Okay. So it will loop through each and every key and value. Okay. In updated data dot items. It will go each and every item. It will go with ID, one, city, Austin, and all those one by one. Okay. Now, if you see, we have this. Now we will set the attribute. So set attr. Okay. Now here you can say users. Inside this, we are having an index which is coming from here. So copy paste here, and then you can say comma key, comma value. Okay. And our user will get update. Great. So now we have the updated user with us here. And I'm going to return that particular user with the help of index. Great. So now I can move this particular set of code inside, and this one also I can move it to inside. Okay, let's see how it works. Now if I go back here again, post it, and after posting it, if I try to update, see it got updated. It got updated. It is returning the same, by the way. I have Robo. It should be Robo Tyson. It should be saying. Let's see what is wrong here. Am I returning the correct users? So I'm saying users index. And this particular user index we have already updated. So again, if I go here, I'm saying for index user enumerate, compare it, updated data equal to updated user dot dictionary exclude unset equal to true. This is correct. Then for key value in updated data dot items. This is also correct. And then set attr users index. I have a doubt here, like this is the one. Then I have a users index, then key value. That is what we are updating. And after updating this, we are sending the users. Let me print this users once here, what it says. Okay, so print and then say users. Okay, if I go back here, done, done. And if you see here, I'm still getting the robo. Okay, which means this updated user, am I not getting correctly? Let me see quickly. So if I say print updated user, okay, so if I again go post and then again try to update, what data we are getting? We are getting ID, Robo Tyson, and this. The data is coming fine, but I don't see this particular data getting updated. Okay, so here for key value in updated data dot items and then set attr users index key comma value, and then it should return that particular user. So let me get out of it and let me try it again. Okay. Post and then put. Yep, it got updated. It was because I was returning this from inside it. So once it will update the data, then we can return this particular object. Okay. Now, if suppose what we were doing earlier, like we were trying to update, if that particular user itself is not there, we can return the error also. That's fine. Let's go and check with the delete. I don't think with the delete we are using the request, so there is no change required in the delete. Yep, correct. So this is how we can work with the Pydantic, but the main feature of Pydantic now it will come in picture, which is the validating fields. Okay, so I'm saying annotated. So I have to first get the annotated here. So comma annotated. Oh, sorry, it will be in typing. So annotated. Okay, I got the annotated. And apart from annotated, I don't require anything here. Yeah. Annotated. And then inside annotated, I can say it is a type of string. Very first thing. Okay. After saying that, I'm saying field. Okay. And we are saying it should have a pattern. So let me get that particular pattern here. So field pattern. and then you can say comma, description, only letters allowed. Okay. And minimum length, what we are asking is for 1 equals to 1. Okay, let's see this. Now, if I go back and try to post the data here, and I'm saying I have a space, I will get the error. A string should not get match, okay, because it should only be having alphabetical character, but is having a space. Okay. Now, if I say empty, it would say at least one character. So here we have giving all this validation like at least one character. So it is throwing that particular error. Great. Now, if I see the similar thing for this one also, the age, so I can see field, and inside field, if I say dot dot dot, it should be greater than equal to 0. Okay, greater than 0, and then I'm going to say description equal to age greater than 0. Okay, so here we are saying age must be greater than 0. So it is field, comma, greater than equal to 0, and then TESCRIPTION description equals to age must be greater than 0. No, why it is giving me the abstraction? It is saying not allowed. Give me a minute. So it is field, comma, GT equal to 0, description, and age. Let's see, like it may be an issue with my Visual Studio. So let's give the age to minus one, and let the name will be Mike, for example, and send the request. So if you send the request got stuck because we have some issues here, unknown type schema. Why I am having this? Oh, okay, I got it. What is the issue here? So it is int equals to, we have to provide the data type. Okay, so if I go back again here, and if I try to add, it is saying input should be greater than 0. So this is how we can work with the field level validation using Pydantic. So whatever request we are getting, we can validate that data before we process that data. Okay, and this is how this Pydantic, UVCon, FastAPI, and all of these things works. Great. Now that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful and want to see more video on AI, don't forget to like this video and click on the notification bell icon to stay updated and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.